Actually, I'm going to start with Eric. Oh, actually, Eric is having some problems. So sorry. I am going to start with Jay.
All right. So the process for composing for this film.
Sorry, hello. The connection was so bad, I did not understood what you say. I'm sorry, my English is very poor, so I'm going to try to answer. But
I was just asking about your process for composing.
Oh, okay. For animation film, it's very special process because the process is very long. So I received first of all some drawers, very rough, and start to write music with a chronology from the top, and little by little I discovered the real images, pictures of the film. First of all, I tried to find a motif with a few notes, and little by little I work with this motif, and I start by writing some very rough orchestration at the beginning, but I need to know the definitive pictures, the definitive colors to write really deeply the orchestration.
Okay, thank you.
Our next question comes from Cherry.
Hi, I loved the music in the film. It really enriched it. I was wondering, how did you all select the instruments? Did you use musical instruments or try to get the sound from what we think they sounded like back in the day, since we don't have recordings from the imaginary time when that took place? Thank you.
For this film, there is a very important magic aspect in the film. So I tried to make stronger this aspect with, and for me to obtain magic effects with music, it's great to use voices, for example, metamorphosis of voices, a special way of writing strings. I use celesta, harp, dulcimer, and the orchestra. And also I worked with an Irish band named Kila. And so a lot of very separate things, but I love it. It's like a Capharnaum of instruments. I start yes by a little motif, and with a voice of a singer, a young girl, and after I built the music with these elements. I'm sorry.
Our next question comes from Kyle.
Okay.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
I was looking at Bruno's work, and it seems to unify across the three Irish folklore trilogy of films. Is there any kind of unifying element with the music, with the editing, with other aspects of the film?
With the Irish elements?
With the rest of the other films that were worked on, the Kells and Song of the Sea.
Yes, I think the link is COULAIS. It's Irish band, but I love, and for me it's the best moment for when I record with COULAIS. But it's yes, I worked for the three films of Tom Moore with them. And it was really interesting for me because they don't read music, for example, but they are such a good musicians. They are able to understand very quickly what I want. I sing, for example, a theme, or I play on the piano, and immediately they are able to play, and they bring an Irish and Celtic element to the music, but very naturally, because I'm not Irish and I studied classical music, and I need this touch, this special touch on this film, and it was funny because we found a correspondence between the, for example, the soloist, the violin soloist of the orchestra, and the fiddle of COULAIS. It was the same song, the same sound. It was, yes, very close. It's a magic band because they played a lot of instruments, dulcimer, percussions, violin, flutes, pipes. So I have a small, it's like a small orchestra at disposition. And the film is a film of metamorphosis. So I think it was interesting to balance the big orchestra and the small band of COULAIS.
Thank you for your answer.
And to follow up on that, in regards to the editorial connection between the films, I think it comes from the graphic nature of the art that Cartoon Salon brings, the nice proscenium elements, and they used a lot of the sliding panel stuff that seems to carry across. I'll let Darren and Richard, because I just kind of joined their process midstream in Song of the Sea, but if you guys have any other comments on that, please.
Yeah, I think that the graphic thing you talked about was really interesting in this film, because I think it was if you notice in some scenes there's sort of triptychs, so there's like three things going on at the same time, and I think that's kind of a new. So there was, you know, there's kind of things that are sort of similar, but then like I think Tom and Ross are always changing as artists, and I think this film there's some real innovations, especially I think some of the transitions are amazing in the film. You know, that was at the very last part of the film. I think Richie, like all those compositions kind of happen at the very, very end in terms of, you know, the scenes kind of collapse and then they kind of, you know, reappear completely. Like it's just really, I think, so a lot of people are involved in that process, not just the editing.
Yes, and it's also a film of contrasts, the contrasts between the city, which is very dark and very square, and the luxurious of forest, for example, with a lot of freedom, shapes, of movement, of colors. So for the music, it was also very interesting to play on the both sides.
Our next question comes from Marvin.
I will stick to the salutation that I've made to the first set of panelists. So instead of saying hello, I will say awoo. I didn't get it right. I think I will be very poor at voice acting. But my question is, midpoint in the film, in your amazing film, entrancing film, Meb and Robin went out for a day out in the forest, and then comes in the Aurora's running with the wolves. Kindly take us to that day or that days in the editing suite. What was happening there?
I think that's probably for me. So that song was found by Tom. He was listening to some music, Wolf-inspired music, while they were working on the storyboards very, very early on. And I think my internet connection is unstable. He took that song and gave it to the board artist Guillaume, and Guillaume just took that song and boarded to it directly all the way through. So when we got it back from him, it was this complete long sequence. But kind of when it came down to time to go into production with that sequence, we needed to cut it down a little bit. So I had to go through and try and trim stuff out of the song and try and match beats where I could, and hopefully not totally destroy it, but got the sequence down then to a little bit more of a more manageable length, but while trying to keep the joy and the energy that Guillaume originally brought to it. It was a bit of a challenge, but it was a fun one.
Found great moments to kind of match the crescendos with the running and the jump and things like that were in the boards, but you manipulate those moments so that they fit better to the music, to the musical beats, the rises and the verses.
Exactly, yeah.
And there's a lot of actually dialogue in that scene. I think Richie did a really lovely job integrating the way people are talking, and then it's very tricky what happens in that. Like just when I watched afterwards, I was like really amazed how it was all so cleverly interwoven, and then how it finishes off very nicely at the end. Then when the two wolves are kind of cuddling up against each other on the tree at the end, it's really well done.
Yeah. We were really lucky with the art team that brought to it as well. Like I know Maria Parika did a lot of work on that sequence, and when I kind of mentioned that I was making changes or making trims to that sequence, and I was told, "Oh no, not the best sequence in the movie." So yeah, they had enough, I think, to do a good job with that at the end.
That's what the editor does, is tries to respect the idea of the emotional element in that beat, plus also what is available in the visual side of it too, and making sure that everything feels like it's naturally part of a flowing story. So
yeah, and I don't think it pops out too much like sometimes you get in a lot of films like this where there's a musical number and the whole thing stops. I think what's really nice about the song in this film is it's beautifully integrated. So the story keeps on flowing. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like just a song and then another bit and then another song, because it's just one song. And Bruno, am I right in thinking it was re-recorded afterwards as well? You added new music to that as well, to that song?
Of a song, I have written the strings because I'm not a huge fan of a song in the middle of the film, because I think songs stop the story. The song is like a clip suddenly. But this song was really good, and we try to incorporate the mood of the song to the score. So it's why I have written strings, and Kila made arrangement with the percussions, and after we record the voice of Aura.
So the whole song was re-recorded. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Our next question comes from Andrew.
Hi, thanks. I was curious on how music, in your opinion, would progress throughout the course of the movie, as in it seemed to start more traditionally Irish and it evolved throughout Maeve's journey in the movie. Did that play into how the music was implemented?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question, sorry.
Did you, I guess what I mean to say is, was there a progression in mind for the music to change as the movie went on?
Okay. Yes, but I sent some demos very quickly, and they built the editing of the film on the demos, because for me the worst problem of the composer is the temp music, because I think the editor built the editing on wrong rhythm, and it's so important for the composer to find, to experiment, as the process on animation film is so long that we can experiment, we can find the music, the special music for the film. So it's why I start very, very early in the process. And now I think we can make some good demos. So the directors, Ross and Tom, was, I think, receive this music. We discuss, we change some aspects of the music, and little by little we have the definitive music until the recording of the orchestra of the musicians and the voice and the singers.
What was interesting about this film as well, because of we worked with Bruno before on Song of the Sea and Secret of Kells, that we had this whole bank of music. So we had, you know, usually when you're doing temp music, it's like, you know, it's just whatever. You're just taking music from different movies and you're putting it on and see if it works. But we were actually trying songs really from Song of the Sea and Secret of Kells on as well. So it kind of felt right, you know, as we were editing it together. We had a bit of a similar vibe on even the temp track. So, you know, when it came to Bruno, because we'd never send Bruno a version of it with the music. So, you know, it would just be completely naked, as it were, and then he would just put his music onto it. But I think like texturally, I think we actually we weren't starting from scratch, like, you know, like with Song of the Sea or with Secret of Kells. We you know, we had a ship there.
Yes, but for us, it's really very important to discover a film without music. Because yes, it's. I think each film is unique, and the music is not there for double, for example, dialogues or the story, but to reveal. I think to try to reveal the secret part of the film, and if you discover a film with the music of another movie. It's, for me, really disturbing, and it's impossible to have a fresh discovering of the mood of the film. For when I watched for the first time a film, the story is not so important for me. I search the secret aspect of the film. I'm very dependent of the light, of the mood, of the colors, because I think there is a very strong connection between the colors and the orchestration, the density of the picture and the density of the orchestration. Yes, it's important.
Our next question comes from Carl.
Hi, I'm not sure if the editors can speak to this, but you know, the film has some great actors, including Sean Bean and Maria Doyle Kennedy. Can you talk about some of the voice actor choices and the approach to directing them?
Well, I think we were very lucky in the studio because we have some great actors in the studio, and when you're editing a film, you use a lot of the crew voices. And like, for instance, we had Niamh, who was doing Maeve's part, and like, we never thought we'd get someone as good as Niamh, but it was a miracle, really. We found Eva because she's just incredible. Like, I think straight away, as soon as we heard her, we were like, oh, that's Maeve. And like, I think Honor, who plays the part of Robin, is like, she's quite an experienced actress. So I think what was great in that central relationship was the fact that, you know, you had the difference between a very trained actress and a very raw talent. and I think it really works really well. So I think if we hadn't have found those two actresses, I mean, I don't think we could have made the film. I mean, like they're just so brilliant. And then of course Sean Bean, like he was great as well. Like Richie, like you, I mean, how the rest of the actors there, Richie, how did you think they got on?
I thought they were all incredible. There was a lovely moment in the voice records where Honor, who's playing Sean Bean's daughter, was being coached how to do a Northern English accent because she's from a different part of England. There's a different accent there altogether. So to have Sean in the room with her, coaching her on how to best imitate his accent was a really, really nice touch, and probably strengthened the feeling of that relationship as well. We actually ended up recording a lot of local people around Kilkenny. The studio's from Kilkenny, the film is set in Kilkenny, so we wanted to get as many local voices in there as possible. So we had groups of people, groups of kids coming into a local recording studio, recording all of the crowd audio and background audio, which really kind of gave a lift to it as well, and really helped to make it feel a little bit like home.
And generally for the lead actors, you rarely get them to perform together. This is kind of the problem with animation, is they're locked in a room and they aren't feeding off of other actors. How often were you able to get like Sean and Connor together in a room? Or the other, Maeve and Robin never got together, did they?
They did actually, yeah. So most of the records for this film were done in a studio up the country called Grouse Lodge. They brought in all of the principal actors pretty much at the same time, and had Sean and Honor in the room together, acting alongside each other. Simon McBurney, I think, and Sean Bean as well were in the same place at the same time. And the two girls, most of their performances, they're actually bouncing off each other in the room. Two actors in the room, mics between them, and all of that energy, all of that intensity they bring is because they were feeding off each other, and because they were able to match their performances to each other. We pretty much had just that one block of recording then, with a couple of pickup sessions after most production was done. So we were very, very lucky to get everybody together for that 1 week.
Yeah, and I think Sean Bean really was great as well, because I mean, we all imagined Sean when we were doing it, and we were all doing really bad. Never mind like the temp music. It would have been so embarrassing with Sean Bean. I heard our awful Sean Bean impersonations, except maybe Paul Young, who was very good, who's one of the producers, who did a great impersonation. But I don't think, like, he's such a great screen presence and such a recognizable voice and I think he just gives a great performance in the final product as well. Like, he's so emotional. And I think it's another side to Sean Bean I haven't seen before in a film. Like, he's very soft in some scenes in it. So I think it's, yeah, like he's great. He really, really lifts it, I think.
The next question comes from Stephen.
Hi, everyone. Really love the film. I just wondering, is there anything that you're most proud of? I asked this of the other team, and a lot of it had to do with the family environment of making this, and how they really felt more like a family than just a bunch of artists assembled together. So is there something that you're most proud of, and also related to your relationship with everyone else? Have you had a chance to see it together as a team? You know, did you have a screening, or how did that work out with COVID and such?
Yeah, we did have a chance to see it together as a team. It was a reduced screening. I think we had to split the crew up into 2 or 3 different auditoriums, but we pretty much took over a local cinema, 4 or 5 screens in there, and we did a screening for the crew, and we were able to do a couple of public screenings as well, within the crowd limits, for the brief week in October when our country was back almost open again. I guess the thing I'm most proud of is just really the relationship between the 2 girls in that film. The reaction to it from people I've seen have really engaged with it, have loved following their journey along with it, and kind of the rest of the flashier elements, the action, everything else. It kind of all hinges on the relationship between those 2 central characters, and I'm really happy that we managed to get it feeling as authentic and as real as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of personnel, I think definitely like Cartoon Salon is a very unique place to work. It's kind of like like it's almost like a commune where everyone is just really wants to help each other out and do the best job they can, because you know, at the end of the day, like Tom and Ross are just lovely guys, genuinely, and like they're really close friends of mine, and I'm like everyone else who works with them. And I think what's great about them is that, you know, they'll listen to all your bad ideas and then they'll pick out the good ones, which I really like, but they will listen to the really bad ones as well. And I think that's what's great about them, and they have a great filter as well to kind of pick out the good ones. And I think the thing I'm most proud about the film is probably, again, like with Richie, I think it's the central characters, the two central characters, because they're from scratch, you know what I mean? And I think particularly Robin, I really love Robin's, like, especially towards the end of the film, where she really stands up for herself. And I think that's really great for, like, it's a great message. You know, I really think like Tom and Ross should be really proud that they've created this very, you know, empowering film for young girls to see, you know. So yeah, that would be the thing I'd be most proud of.
I'm just proud to be able to participate with the Cartoon Salon projects that I have been on. So I met Tom about 10 years ago when we were both inducted into the Motion Picture Academy in Los Angeles. And my wife is Irish, and so we go to Ireland occasionally for summers, and Tom asked me if I would come in and take a look at Song of the Sea, and so it's been a continuing relationship since then. So it's always a pleasure to work outside of Hollywood with the people there are just so genuine. It's always a thrill to be part of that process. So.
And Darren brings so much to it as well. Like when you're kind of in a building with the whole crew and everybody's looking at the same version of the film all the time, you tend to get a little bit of tunnel vision. But whenever Darren brings work to the table, he always just blows that wide open and is really great. On one hand, he's a great fresh pair of eyes, and on the other hand, he's just such an incredible editor and really has a great head for story. So all of his input and all of the work he's done has really elevated the films as well.
Yeah, second that as well, definitely.
Our next question comes from David.
Hi. Well, first I wanted to congratulate you on the work with this, with the music in this film. Every movie I can recall, whether it's animation or live action, the most special movies I recall in my life are special because of the music. I think it's something that is really very important for a movie, and I haven't had that feeling of just listening to the music in a movie and immediately feel connected to the scenes and to what I'm seeing. And with this movie, I had that feeling again, and I think that's very related to the dynamics in the composition, in the writing of this music. So I guess this is a question for Bruno then, mainly about how you manage to build the dynamics in this music that actually carry on the whole movie, and you can actually listen to the music and see the movie in your head. That's something that is really magical. And also, you mentioned that you are not Irish, and of course, there's a lot of Irish elements in this music. I sense a little bit of Alan Stivell influence in the Irish elements in the music. So can you comment on that too?
Yes, thank you. First of all, when I start to work on this film, for example, I don't write immediately music. I have to live with the film, to search inconsciously the music of the film, the mood of the music. After, the dynamics are very important. Sometimes, if you want, for example, to create frightness with music, you use a very soft elements like children voice, like I think sometimes it's more anxious than a big orchestra. After, there is I think when I work on the film, I think of the architecture of the music. The music has to evolve very naturally with the film. Sometimes the music has to be very secret, very far, mixed with the sounds, for example, and suddenly the music can be very strong. Music is very dangerous. You know, you can change the meaning of a scene, of a sequence. So you have to be very carefully with the music on the film. And the magic, the Celtic mood of the music, maybe you think of Alan Stivell, maybe with the harp, we have this sensation. In France, yes, I'm not Irish, but we have a very important Celtic music. So I know this music, but I don't want to write a specific traditional Irish music, because I think the music has to be intemporal, has to be larger than the place of the story. So I expect that Kila is there for this aspect, but for me the music is larger. The music has to be really intemporal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Donnie.
Hi there. So this is a very general question. I just kind of wanted to gauge you guys with this. What is something that you guys would like for your audience to take away from this production?
I guess, firstly, that they enjoy it. Primarily, I think watching a film like this, especially a kid's animated movie, should be an enjoyable experience. And if that's the only level they engage on it, then fine. Again, it's the family elements of it, I guess, that I've been hearing back about a little bit more. Like my own mother was really enjoyed the family dynamic between Bill and Robin while they were living in the town, and then as their relationship evolved, she said it felt very real to her, and how it and not exactly like somebody turning into a wolf and then the dad getting bit and getting turned into a wolf, but felt real to real life situations and real life characters. So it's on that level, that's the level that I try and approach films on, and when people engage with that, I'm always delighted.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Richie says, it's a family film, it's an action movie, and you'd hope that people would, tell their friends about that. But, I think also like Ross and Tom would hope as well, I think that they were there is an ecological message in there, hopefully that, I think Thomas described as like Greta Thunberg would have inspired a lot, kind of the messaging in the film. So, girls who are into that might be kind of researching a bit into ecology. And I think, as an Irish person as well, I think it would, make people kind of, was there wolves in Ireland long ago? And there was, and they're all gone now. And why have they gone? So, I mean, you'd hope that children maybe would start asking those questions and looking up, the history of their own history. So, and they would be proud of their own history, same way as I suppose, if you're watching American films, you're proud of the history of that. If you're Irish, I think it would make you kind of just when you do it in school, then you go, oh yeah, I saw a film about that, and you'd learn a bit more. So yeah, I mean, that's as much as you can hope for in a movie, but I would hope that the ecological message, and maybe they want to just Google a bit of the history as well afterwards would be nice too.
Yes, I agree. And I think the forest, the destruction of the forest is like a main character in the film. and I was really, it was amazing to see how Ross and Colm are concerned by the ecologic problems. And it's why this film is very important, because it's not only a film for family, it's also important for what's happened now in the world.
I also think just to contrast live action to animation, where live action will create characters and moments, animation really creates a world that you're drawn into and an environment. And Russ and Tom both, created such a beautiful world and a mythology through all three of the films that really portrays that whole storytelling aspect that you get from that Irish culture too. So it's just wonderful, and especially to go deep into those older periods and not just mythology, but it's grounded in your character moments that you really feel with your characters as you go through the experience with them and the story.
Our next question comes from Ben.
There's a question for both the editors and for Bruno. In terms of the things that were left on the cutting room floor, were there any scenes or musical tracks that you were especially sad to see not included in the film, and why?
There was a great comedy scene we cut out for time, and I don't think Darren has forgiven me yet, but I think it had to go. It was a very good scene with the woodcutters. That was very funny, but I think for time, it was that or other stuff that's in the film. And it's like when you read reviews and they go, "Oh, the film is just a little bit too long," you're going, "Oh, that scene had to go." If you got any idea how heartbreaking it was to get rid of that. So yeah, that leaving was tough. I think, yeah. And but I think you have to make those hard choices, But I think it is good that it's gone.
And there's enough of those characters, the smaller, through moments that still play, so you don't lose them completely. It's nice.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah, absolutely. It is. The comedy elements are still in there, but I think like sometimes if it's not moving the story forward, stuff has to go. And I think you kind of have to make those. I mean, and there was a lot of early boards that were gone, Richie. Like it was the whole of Act 1. There was a scene between Cromwell and Bill that went on for nearly 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're all glad that's gone. That no one will ever see, hopefully. So yeah, like there was a lot of changes made early on in the film to Act 1, and I think now it is all those elements are in the film, but it's a lot better than it was, because it was very slow before, and I think now it gets straight into the story a lot quicker.
Yeah, all of those changes that were made to Act 1 really just simplified kind of the whole situation. You still had the same personal journey that Bill and Robin started out on and embarked on, but in very early versions of the story, they actually were living in the forest before moving into the town, and that was just it was a lovely element to it, and it kind of showed them at home in the forest together, but it just confused the beginning of the film. Like, why did they leave the forest to come into town if all they want to do is get back to the forest in the first place? So
it was different ways of starting the story, and I think we started the right way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's really good.
Like nice elements like that, ideas that you like, but that don't serve the story. I'm opposite to Darren. I love Darren and Darragh. I love getting rid of those moments. I'm so satisfied when I can get rid of something nice or something beautiful if it means that the story feels better because of it. If you cut a scene and you watch the film and you don't notice it's gone, as nice as the scene is, it's probably not worth its time.
Yeah, and then I think it leaves you a lot longer to play with the lovely scenes in the middle of the film between Robin and Maeve, where they are friends, and maybe they don't serve the story, but there's such beautiful scenes that if they were, it's better to keep those, to fight for those, than to then lose the comic ones that are brilliant too. But you're better off your central characters. I think they have to win out.
And our last question is going to be from Jamie Seeker.
Hi, so this is for the editors. Since I really don't know a whole lot about what goes into editing an animated film, you mentioned earlier that with the running of the wolves, you cut stuff from the storyboard part, but I imagine there's also stuff that gets fully animated that gets cut. So how much is cut in like the storyboarding, and how much would get cut from the like final version?
So we're not wealthy enough. We don't have big enough budgets to cut stuff when it gets to animation. If a story element gets to animation and then we start looking at cutting it, we've messed up somewhere along the way. We did cut. There was one sequence that got to a pre-animation stage called posing, where there was quite significant amount of work done on it. But at that stage, we were kind of able to see that it wasn't carrying its weight in terms of story, so we got rid of that. But pretty much all of the film is constructed from storyboards, scratch voices, scratch music, scratch sound effects. It's very, very messy process. In some ways, it's very crafty, very like finger painting kind of thing. But you're pulling the story together, and then you can start to add the incredible work that the art team did on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't cut it in the storyboard, it's just very expensive. I think in America, Darren, would you get to animation and cut, or would you ever?
No, I was going to add that even from the big budget Hollywood side, the whole point of, it's the opposite of live action, where you shoot your coverage and then you come back to your cutting room and you find your moments. Here we have everything, and you test it in storyboard, story reel. It's like the draft of the script. You're still editing your script, because it's easy to just draw single drawings and people around the studio doing temporary voices. You can actually view your script in a reel and see if it works. And then if you like that, then you have your actors record that. And then you start to move into production. But the process is so expensive to animate that you really have to pre-edit the whole film, and often many times, till you're really happy with how every moment, every scene is working. And then once, sometimes, they'll be happy with one scene, they'll start into animation with that, and then we'll still be working on how the ending is, or how can we tighten up the opening of the film. And it's a big kind of balancing act between the editing process and production, and you're constantly trying to see, once things start to solidify, then you start to animate, because it's so expensive. It's very rare to cut stuff out, maybe a shot here and there once you've done a test audience, but for the most part, you're animating, everything for production.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do it that way, because it would just get so expensive. I know on the first film the lads made, Secret of Kells, there was a lot of finished animation cut, and I think that broke their heart so much, because that's, serious man errors. That's like years of people's lives, and you don't want to be wasting that, never mind money, just time, and the painstaking. Like, if you watch this film, there's so much artistry. I think you could stop every frame of this film and you could hang it on your wall. Do you know what I mean? And for someone to have done that, and then for that to be thrown away, would just be, it'd be a terrible thing to do to any to the crew,
Thank you.